Sean.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
as part of our settlement agreement, with the Cedar Avenue streetscape project, part of that is, exchanging out our limestone material with granite material that's provided by Owatonna stuff. You can pass around, they're available color options for council to view, also color. Well, they have a number of finishes to go on the tops of stones, as well on the sides. What we have here tonight is Superior Black is the recommended color. And for the faces will be split face, very similar to what we had on the limestone. They have a limited amount of finishes that will be slip resistant. So a lot of their finishes, depending on water or some snow accumulation, will be a lot slippier, don't provide very much traction. The two samples that Owatonna stated would be best used in this scenario or this design application would be their sapphire, which is this sample finish. And the other is flamed, and this is also the Superior Black. So they just apply the cutting and finishing in a little bit different pattern. You can see a varying degree in coloration that comes with that. And so we tried to put a little mock-up together with the samples that they sent yesterday. And so essentially what this will look like, and we kind of have a few pictures of what it looks like today. So with our brick pavers adjacent to the split face with top of stone, and then what we have for color on the current mulch that's out there. Obviously, mulch color is something that's very easy to exchange out or change out if there's a better color palette that works better with the recommended stone. So I do welcome council to come up, take a look, feel, or I can pass them around too. But as of right now, our design professionals from ISG did not really provide very much guidance in terms of the 5 color palettes that are there. From the staff decision standpoint, we really thought that just 1 and 4 were the closest, with 1 being the Superior Black. The red and black would contrast too much with the existing brickwork on the downtown buildings and the pavers that we have installed. Green, we just didn't feel that would really bring a lot of accent to much of anything. And the white just felt too white and get lost within concrete treatment. So again, welcome council to maybe come up, or I can pass them around, whatever you feel. So trying to get some input on direction to go with some of these replacement stones. Yes, Kevin?
Sean, it's still gonna be one piece though, right? That's not gonna be on top of the other.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so these are
It's
just
2 different samples.
correct. Just the ease of putting these together and being able to kind of hold things up together, right? No, there's still going to be the same style planks that are out there, the 4-inch tall with 2-inch, below it, grade, 2-inch above.
Okay, thank you.
That was one of my questions. The one has a more, not as flat of a face. Does it matter for snow removal, maintenance, any of that, to have it a little bit smoother?
This, you mean
The face is rougher and more inconsistent versus the smoother face?
Not really. I mean, it's granite. It's going to take a lot.
I mean, on our equipment, more so on the equipment.
No, the equipment we have down there, we've got a unique, we actually manufactured or created the system itself. It's got suspension in it, it's an old track pad, so it helps. It's got wings that fold back, so if it runs into anything, it's got a lot of forgiveness to it. And then we usually use brooms down there as well.
Or, yeah, sorry.
I would just say whatever you think would be the most durable.
I mean, it's granite, they're all gonna last a long, long time, a lot longer than the stones that are out there.
So really, the big switch is going from that
Color.
sandstone look to more granite, darker green.
You just pass those two around, Sean, that would be great.
And I don't want, unfortunately, just with the settlement agreement, with, the stone provider, this is the limited granite options that they have. We know it's not the same color style as the limestone that's there, but this is what we're limited with. And if the council's not happy with it, we want to hear it, to see what other options we could possibly go through with. And I can ask around, this is the other finish as well.
Just depending on what part of the stone it is.
So Sean, freeze thaw doesn't affect granite near as much as the limestone.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
This wouldn't be affected by freeze thaw splitting.
Correct, there would be almost zero.
Sean, the new rock, will that come with a warranty as well?
There will be no warranty.
No warranty, it's, okay. But it being granted, we should not have issues with it.
No, and we ask those questions too, what kind of warranty comes with it, and it just says we were, working through, mediation. I think what it came back as is if there's an installation issue, obviously that'll be fixed. There's payments from the trust through our settlement agreement that will be withheld at certain points along progress in the project of getting the new stone put in. So, they'll hold, installation, you know, if something doesn't look right, they'll obviously swap things out. But from a long-term perspective, any warranty, it's as is. And that's typically how, Casota operates with any of their stone.
So will the stone be put together or sealed, or will they all be floating stone?
I believe the design details would be similar to what we have there, so there's a mortar bed underneath, and I believe the detail is 2 pins, so 2 epoxy pins are then drilled into the bottom of those planks, and they're mortared in, so we have that locked in.
With the finishes, those 3 different finishes, that'll be all sides.
Nope, so the one that has a lot of undulation on it, this will be the split face, these are the faces.
Okay.
So, all faces, I don't know, we'll have to work through it with Casota if they're gonna be installing them, you know, straight cut, as that picture shows, on inside edges where they're butt to butt, but everything that's shown on, a visible edge, so front faces, side faces that are showing towards, a visible edge will have this split face finish on it.
Then the top will be smooth.
And then the top will be one of those two, we're recommending, yes, correct.
Where am I gonna sit on that one?
No, not very comfortable.
So if there's no objection, I think Sean will move ahead with that, finish that style, so I can get an update.
Yep, sounds good.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks for your time.
Take your rock and go home.
Gotta say.
I was missed out, I told you to leave, you could have left.
So now we are ready for
We are.
All right.
Thanks for the adjustment.
All right, am I hooked in here?
Oh, you're gonna- oh, me. wanna switch Troy over to the HDMI?
Small font.
All right, there was a question as to the actual letter, that was referenced in the staff reports for, tonight's approvals. You have a copy of it there. So, first I'll go over, kind of the requests on the agenda, so everybody understands what they are, and then we can move over to the TIF
Troy,
portion.
can I just make sure this is what you're looking for?
Yes. So this was for the planning commission, but basically there's two vacations, one for right of way, and I'll pull up a map here so you can see. One to the a blanket sanitary sewer easement. And the planning commission did preliminary and final plat of the new plat. We're just gonna do preliminary plat.
Can you pull the microphone closer to it, please?
I'll scoot up.
It's like karaoke night.
And then there's the, variance parking request. So. Okay, so there's actually three different portions of right-of-way that we're vacating. One is Walnut Avenue, one is Vine Street to the river, and one is an alley. And if you look on the map there, everything in blue is what's being vacated. So the original plat on this is really quirky. I mean, it looks like it was done in sections, not done all together, and, obviously the road doesn't even follow, the right of way there. So, the easiest way of doing this, we felt like was vacate all right of way within the plat, vacate all utility easements in the plat, and then replat it, with where the road alignment will be, and then place the easements where you need to. So, the vacation of right of way includes everything in blue that you see on that map.
So how does this affect Firestone's access to their property ultimately?
So it doesn't. So we vacate it, but then we replat the street in the same spot on the backside of Firestone. So I think from what I could gather from the letter is, I think, there was thought that they would not have access to that back road,
Okay,
but they will.
right.
So here's then the easement, the blanket easement will just encompass the entire plat. And this is a sanitary sewer easement, and we don't have too many of these. So we will be replacing that with, utility easements that are specific to the utilities that are there and in spots that they are needed. And then so here's where we get to like a site plan. So the new roadway, will just be sort of straight now, right up against, the back of the properties there. So Firestone will have direct access as they do now. It'll run right up along the bike shop all the way to Bridge Street. So it'll be pretty much a straight roadway with angled parking on both sides. So again, just vacating everything that was there, replatting it with new right-of-way, for the roadway, and easements doing the same thing, vacating them and then putting them where they need to go. So let's get through the grading. So like this is what the plat looks like. We get one lot
Troy,
right here.
could you go back a slide? Where it says that, right there, where is this easement that the Firestone store doesn't like?
Well, the only easement that we're vacating is a blanket sanitary sewer.
Is what?
Is a blanket sanitary sewer easement. So there was a easement placed long ago for sanitary sewer for this whole area over the whole property. So in order to be able to do this project and build on it, we're vacating all of that and we're putting in utilities, easements where they are needed, where the specific utility lines are. So again, I think Firestone was referencing the easement as if it was an access easement, because a lot of the wording in that letter was about providing access to their property, which they will still have access in the same spot that they do now, off the backside, if that makes sense.
So it's not affecting your access then?
No, access will remain the same. There was some reference about being able to have access to the property throughout the whole project. And the developer has got a plan on how they can provide access through the parking lot, the city parking lot, while the streets are done down below. And then when that street's done down below, they'll have access there, and then they'll do the upper part. So there will be full access to the property throughout the whole project.
Perfect, haven't conveyed that to them. Since the date of the letter.
Yes, that has been conveyed to them, yes. So this is the plat, it'll be a one lot plat, an outlot where the city has the trail, and then the right of way for Vine Street up on top here, and then, Tedring Hunter Drive here. So this is the grading that will be in place for the access for Firestone. So right now, the slopes are steeper than what they will be after the project. Taking access off that backside there, so, that was one of the things that we wanted to make sure is, you're not creating this really steep, access point for Firestone. So that'll be leveled out more on the finished grade of the whole project. And I'm just gonna jump over here. So this is, these are the items that were addressed, for Firestone. One is, they wanted access to, from their back parking area to the front without having to go through the whole building. And there will be a sidewalk along the north side of Firestone to the back corner, so that they will be able to have access around.
Troy, how wide will that sidewalk be?
I think we have it at 5 feet.
Okay. That's a good width.
Yep.
Another question on the sidewalk, who's gonna take care of that? City's not gonna plow that.
No, it's on private property, so.
That'd be a long sidewalk.
Well, it's the length of the building, from the back of the building there to the front of the building, so. And then the transition for the Firestone driveway, which was that drawing I showed you before, leveling that out, so that it's not a steep slope as it is today, and then keeping access throughout construction. And that can be done by doing one phase, the road first, before doing the project.
Troy, I've got a question on the sidewalk again, if I could.
Yep.
Who's going to own the sidewalk?
Well, the sidewalk will be on, the development's property.
So here's my question, there's gonna be no sun that gets to it. And it is a benefit to Firestone. I'm just nervous about, with it never getting sun, the ice and snow is not gonna melt off of it. Is there any way that could be a heated sidewalk? Developer pay for, or Firestone agrees to it, whatever, but that is gonna get zero sun. Even a day like today, it's not gonna melt.
There's gonna have to be some maintenance done on it.
There's no obligation that the owner provides a sidewalk to Firestone, because it's on that Sense property, right?
Yes.
If you put a fence there, I think it would block off access to that sidewalk, so there's no guarantee that
So this
fire
is,
zone.
you know, this is why we have a public hearing,
Yeah.
and we talk about, you know, what's a reasonable, accommodation, to address some of their, so this is what the developer, came up with, is having a sidewalk, that would provide access, from the back. It'll be up to them or Firestone to decide who's gonna maintain it.
Yeah, I understand that, we have no control of that, I understand that. There would certainly be other merchants downtown with the same north, south, east, west alignment that their sidewalks are not created. I mean, this isn't new that we're requiring a merchant to take care of their own sidewalk. Right. Right?
So those three things, were all addressed in the manner that I described. And then we also had the request from the chamber for the name of that street to be either Ted G. Ringhofer Lane or T.G. Ringhofer Lane. And again, this was sort of the discussions we had on the Sen 1, when we eliminated that former Ted G. Ringhofer Drive to do that project, that this section would be, named after Ted, so.
Is there anything to street, lane, drive?
It does
mean
have
anything?
to follow our street naming, it does need to be lane.
Yeah.
But as far, we checked with, emergency 911, the way they do addressing, we checked with the post office, neither one of them have any restrictions as far as that. So I guess it'll be up to the council if you want to name it 10 G Ringhofer Lane or TG Ringhofer Lane.
Who's the most invested in that, Edna and, or the?
Yeah, I mean, the family's preference would be Ted G Ringhofer Lane.
Do we have any roads in the city of Owatonna uses first and last name?
I don't believe so. But there will not be any addresses off of this section either. So, much like the reason the first Ted G. Ringhofer Lane was named that way, if there was no addresses, this too will not have addresses either, so.
But that was the previous name.
That was. So if there's no objections, we would probably just go with the Ted G. Ringhofer Lane. And name it that in the plat. And the addresses for that.
That would be from Vine Street to Bridge Street.
Yes. All right, and I will jump back up to the variance request then. So, project would require 118 stalls, they're providing 93, but 67 public stalls will be along Ted G. Ringhofer Lane. And so, there's an overall increase of 47 stalls in the area. And so the parking request is to vary from that 118 stalls. And that's taking, and I'll explain it in the staff report during the meeting too, but, our residential requirements are one parking space for a 1-bedroom or a, studio apartment, and then 2 parking spaces for a 2-bedroom, or larger. But you can easily have one person living in a 2-bedroom that probably doesn't have 2 cars in it either, so, the parking, down there, doesn't get fully utilized unless MSP is having an event of some sort. And this will space out the parking all the way from Vine to Bridge a lot more too, so. So that is, the fourth request then tonight for this project.
Troy, do you know how many public stalls are down there right now?
We've got about 30-ish, along Walnut, and then I don't know exactly how many we have in the parking lot, they're unmarked, and
Sean, do you have that information?
I have just a question, I know we're not looking at the site plan, but their access off of Oak Avenue, does that line up with the alley across Oak or not?
Yep, it does.
Okay.
Yep.
And then my second question I have, so we have commercial on the west side of the building, correct?
Yep.
And that- What's the requirements for handicap parking for those? I mean, they have to be on their site for that, or can it be on public property within X number of feet?
No, they can have it on, public property, so we have, that's why we have the handicap stalls downtown that we do, is to, address those handicap stalls. So we've got handicap parking on the top and on the bottom.
Yeah.
Any other questions on any of those things on tonight's agenda?
Would all of those 92 lots be on the west side of this project? There's, on the east side, there's some public parking too, right?
No, on the east side, that's all private parking. The
The
pub-
east side,
Yep,
that's the top of the street, that's all
Yep.
private parking.
yep, it's very similar to Ascend One, where it's, private parking on the front side there.
Private, but for the business, for the commercial business.
Yes.
One question, Troy, I like the fact that Vine Street gets fixed, cause that's really goofy right now, and there'll be the trail there as well. When you get to the bottom, do we have any ideas of how that's gonna, oops, sorry, connect across there? We won't get blinking lights down there, I'm sure, but for pedestrian crossing,
At what point?
going across the street kinda?
Right here on the corner of Vine and,
Yeah.
no, it'll just be, a normal crosswalk.
Okay.
Yeah.
But from the trail that exists, we'll have some,
Connection,
yeah.
yes.
But there are pedestrian flashing lights there now. At the bottom?
Not down below.
No, on the top.
Yeah, very good.
That's all.
Yes.
All right, any other discussions relative to that that's gonna show up on tonight? So I will mention too, so the next meeting, we'll have the public hearing for TIF. We'll have the TIF development agreement. We'll have the land use development agreement. We'll have a purchase agreement for the parking lot. We'll have the second reading of the vacation of the streets, second reading of the vacation of the easement, and we'll have final plat. All, so there's like 7 things relative to this at the next meeting. So I'm trying to get you as much information today, in preparation, for all of that.
And that's January sixth, right?
That is January 6th, correct?
And Troy, just to confirm, this is like your third, study session, you did one on the 18th, November 18th, and then you did one, I think in October 2 on, just
Yep.
talking about Ascend 2?
Yep, so I pulled up the aerial and I kind of showed everybody what was happening there. We had a preliminary site plan. The next one, we went over the overall TIF numbers, and then we went over the site plan again. So we'll have, going over these items, and then, I'll roll into, the TIF, let's see, which one I want here. so these are the,
Can you pull that up a little bit, Troy? Is that
I'll
possible?
blow this up.
On your bottom right, click Troy down and below, you can zoom in on this up a little bit. Right under to your right.
The slider.
You hit the plus sign, it should go. Keeping that plus sign. Can you see it now?
That's better.
Is that better?
Alright, I'll scroll her down to the end here, so.
Thank you.
So, so this project, so I'll give you a little overview. I mean, you guys really don't get involved in the TIF until this point in time. And so there's a lot that happens between the first discussions and this point here. You know, we go over the project, and some of the numbers of, what they wanna do, we get some preliminary numbers from them. You know, the request for TIF usually comes right away. We will take the preliminary, drawings that they have, and we will talk with the county assessor to get a future assessed value of what that is. We'll then take that number and give it to our TIF consultant, Northland, which runs some preliminary numbers of what sort of TIF numbers could be generated. We work with the developer on the performa. They provide a performa, and then there's this kind of ongoing, longer process of negotiating, you know, what the city's gonna get and what the developer's gonna get in order to make this happen. So this goes on, yep.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so this goes on, for quite a while here, in figuring out, you know, what they need, to get to do the project, and what's the minimum amount that we would need to put in, with the caveat that there's things that we would like to see done as far as public improvements, should this project happen. So we had quite a few of those on this one. And if we go back to Ascend 1, you know, we did Ascend 1 with the basis of doing Ascend 2. I mean, Vine Street didn't get completely done because that was gonna be included in, Ascend 2. So we had sort of, an understanding that we were gonna work together to complete the second phase of the riverfront redevelopment project, which was on our strategic plan and, a very high priority for us to do. And so when we completed one, we immediately started on, Ascend 2 and trying to figure out what does that project look like, what's all involved in it, what are all the things that need to get done, how is it gonna get financed, and what level of participation the city would provide. So, you know, early on in this, we, you know, we calculated what the TIF numbers were, and it was a smaller project than the city had. And so the numbers were smaller, and, I pushed for a number of public improvements to get done, with this project. Ringoffer Drive being redone, all the way down to Bridge Street, past their project, because it didn't make sense to stop halfway through. Getting more, public parking on there, getting that trail, segment, eliminate, or where the parking interrupts the trail, to get that portion done. To finish off Vine Street. And then the public parking lot was actually part of the original discussions too, about redoing the public parking lot. And so, you know, we probably had over $1 million in public improvements, in these discussions. And, I mean, it got to a point where they actually walked away. I mean, they said, we can't, it doesn't work. We cannot do all of those public improvements on this project, with all the TIF there. And so we had to go, back to the table again and figure out, you know, what could be done in order to get the project done. And in the meantime, I'm having most everybody in town and a number of you asking, well, how's that second phase coming? When are we gonna see that? When are they gonna get that started? When is demolition gonna start? So, you know, this was a high priority, for everybody, to get done and completed. So the point, that made it work, was, eliminating that public parking lot and making that part of the project, because that allowed them to make the project bigger. We were able to get more square footage, commercial square footage, more rental units, which, you know, increased their revenue numbers, and it eliminated the redoing of that parking lot. And to be honest, to redo that parking lot, it just wasn't very feasible to do so, because, what did we figure out? To redo that parking lot, we'd end up with about half the parking spaces in there because of the great slope that it has. I mean, we could have stuck a couple $100,000 to get half as many parking spaces on it, so it wasn't a very efficient use, of the space. And so to pull that out, make that part of the project, and be able to, increase the size of their project, made the numbers work. And we wanted to get compensated, for that, which we included in part of that. Those first 10 TIF payments would pay us $100,000 for, that parking lot. So, I mean, that was very briefly kind of how, all of those negotiations went. You know, the total, with the bigger project, you know, the total present day TIF numbers are, you know, 2.9 million. If we take our 5% administration fee out of there, that brings it just under $2.8 million for the project. And then if I go back to, I think I presented this, I have updated numbers now. At the last meeting was, you know, the total TIF is just under 2.8 million. They're putting about $22 million project together. You know, they have to start with about 6.6 million, and their return is about 4.6. The land costs, you know, we're up at over 1.5 million, paying 100,000 for the city parking lot. Demolition costs about 200,000, excavation 600, 450 for the geo piers, and then the public improvements. You know, we have an engineer's estimate of all the public improvements, and it's about $880,000. So, you know, TIF is intended to be able to put a project on an even playing field as a greenfield situation. And so, when you look at having to buy 5 or 6 buildings, have to then, you know, pay market value for it, then tear them down. And then, you know, this site requires geo piers, which was not anticipated on the first Ascend project. But that adds about $450,000 to the project because of that site. And then there's extra excavation costs to it, and then the public improvements on it. I mean, if you took just the building values, the demolition of those, the geo piers, half the excavation, all the public improvements, and the city lot that they're paying for, that comes to about $2.7 million. Those are circumstances specific to this site, that they would not have on the green site. So it's pretty equivalent to you know, the TIF numbers, that are being proposed here, to get it on an even playing field with that. And again, this was a high priority, in our strategic plan to get the riverfront done. And we've been working in partnership with them on, this effort. So this is the phase 2 of that. This would pretty much complete, the riverfront efforts, at least on this side of the river. I'd love to be able to get OPU to move their stuff on the other side so we can do some things on that. So, this also allows, the, new street lights to be put in, OPU's put in, that they wouldn't put those in if this project wasn't happening, as well as burying the overhead lines along the river, which again, they would not do if this project wasn't happening. So, that is sort of the summary of it all. If anybody's got any specific questions, there's a TIF plan that got sent out to you, as well as Northland's analysis. Yes, go
So
ahead.
2 questions. First, this is a 26-year TIF, tax increment financing, which takes it out to the year 2054. Do you expect that it will take 26 years for that tax increment financing to be paid
Thanks
back?
for bringing that up, because I forgot to mention that, is when we do these estimates, they are very conservative estimates. They basically are estimating the value of the property to go up 1% a year. And they almost always go up more than that. In fact, Ascend 1, they're paying, like $300,000 more than our estimated table when we approved TIF in that first year. So, should that continue throughout, you know, in future years here, like that TIF should end 7 or 8 years early.
What's a safe assumption to think that it would be done in year 2045, 46?
I would say there's
47.
a very high probability that it will get done well before the 25 years. But we do this, put this up, you know, very conservatively. If there's like, if the market flattens out and property values don't go up, you know, this could go up for 25 years. But if we keep growing and we keep doing projects like this and we get more private investment in our community, the values are gonna go up, and they're gonna go up more than 1% per year.
Then my other question, I don't know if you can answer this, Troy. The trail, that will be open all during construction?
Well, there's a segment that needs to be put in, so for that period of time where we gotta pull out those parking stalls that interrupt the trail and repave that section will probably be closed for that portion of it. Now, their intention is to do the streets first, and get all traffic flow working the way it's supposed to, and then work on the project. So,
The trail will be shut down minimal amount.
a minimal amount, because
Okay.
even when that's done, you know, fencing would go up just like on Ascend 1, where it would section off the trail from the project, and they can do all their work and you can still use the trail. But because this interrupts, I mean, part of the trail is being redone with this project, there will be a portion of time to get that portion done.
Okay, thank you. Dan?
Couple of questions you'd mentioned, this is a $22 million project,
Yes.
okay? Is there outside financing, or is it developer financing?
No, they have a bank,
Pardon me?
bank financing.
Bank financing.
Bank is financing, okay. And then once this is done, is there another equity type firm that is interested in this, that then would buy this property?
Yeah, so they do have a, investor, that's, interested in purchasing it, which really helps make this project work because, they're looking at, their main interest is they have a 1031 exchange. So there's a bit of urgency to get that, invested in property. And so there's an influx of funds, to be able to get the project done. They don't have to assemble an investment group and try to, convince investors that, hey, this is a good deal, at the numbers they have there, which is typically how it goes, is you try to minimize the number of investors you have for a project, but, you know, you gotta have investors that feel comfortable with getting a good return on this project. So a lot of times that means, like the real estate fund is an example, where there's a lot of investors, you know, that was set up to not necessarily make a huge profit, but to invest in Owatonna. All these projects typically have an investment group, an investor at least, or multiple investors or an investment group, to do these projects. So whenever you can have less investors, it speeds up the process and infuses cash, into the project to get it done.
Thank you.
What's the total square footage of the new building, you know?
Well, the commercial, there's about 22,000 square feet of commercial space and 57 units, so I don't know the square footage of all the apartments together, but.
Right. Troy, a lot of communities are starting to do, look-back provisions in their TIF agreements. We thought about doing one of that for this project.
Well, we had,
Their performance based off of numbers that they came up with, but let's say 5 years after being stabilized, they have great renters in it, their commercial space is full, they may not need all this TIF assistance to help their project along the way. So other communities have look-back provisions where they go in and look at the project 5 years after it's stabilized, they look at the numbers, and they realize, oh, they're making a lot more money than they thought they were making, so then they claw back some of the TIF assistance provided to the city. I'm not sure if North Range will look at that for us and suggest something for us, because that'd be one way of the city going and looking at the project, calling back the assistance that is not necessary. All of that stuff we're giving to them.
well, I think that could be a possibility, in future projects. It would be tough to go back on this one, and try to change the ground rules, that we've been working with, and, I do think, we should have some discussion about TIF and what our comfort level is with TIF on future projects. Cause I feel there's a lot more concern about, using TIF and setting some ground rules, of how we use it, would be helpful for me in these discussions and these negotiations that typically take, in this one, I would say we've been over a year trying to do this, and so, it would be really hard to insert that in at this point in time. But I'm not against looking at doing that, and setting up, what the ground rules, would be, so when we work on a project like this again, that could be something that's part of the deal.
Any other questions for Troy? Okay, thank you. We do have, 5 minutes. Are there any board updates?
We meet tomorrow for EDA.